And welcome into episode number 10 of the Grind on Sports. I'm Wayne Kaiser. Right above me is Mr. Ben Metz. And to our left is the one and only Charlie Puleo, former Major League Baseball player, former Major League coach, and also coached a little governor baseball here in Blount County, but now resides in the Atlanta area as he is now retired. But coach, player Charlie, as I call you, how you doing, man?
Good, Wayne. Ben, good to be here with you.
Well, I told you before we got on air, and we'll just rip the Band-Aid clean off. You've got an Orioles jacket on. Ben is a diehard, lifelong Orioles fan, so you've immediately slid way up Ben's list right here.
Oh, well, I said used to work for the Orioles way back when I first got out of pro baseball up in Bluefield, West Virginia, and we had a great time. Great little town. The Orioles were very good to me. And I enjoyed my time working for them. And we had a few big leaguers come through Bluefield that I got to work with, guys like Armando Benitez and Garrett Stevenson, two pitchers that I work with. And who else? We had a few hitters come through there, too. Just right now, that names escape me. But I do remember my pitchers, that's for sure.
Yeah, kind of your wheelhouse, if you will. But Coach, really the way we've been doing this is kind of we want to show and expose people that have worked in Blount County or done things in Blount County at a very high level. Really talk about how you got into the game, how you fell in love with it, the process to get to the major leagues, like what bumps along the way did you experience, and then really the time in the league, worked with some really nice franchises, and then we'll just talk baseball on the back end. But let's just start it there. I guess kind of how early did you know that baseball was what you wanted to do for the long haul?
Well, I was like, every other little kid growing up. I mean, we played baseball in the streets and playgrounds and Little League baseball at that time. But I never really thought, about being a professional baseball when I was very young. Never, really. I was just out there playing. We played like everything else. We played every sport, not just baseball.
Right.
Whatever season it was, we would play. But the first time I think I really thought about professional baseball, I think I was a junior in high school, and a scout from Chicago Cubs gave me a card to fill out for a tryout camp that was coming up that he wanted to invite me to. And I think that's the first time ever I thought, well, pro baseball, well, that could be interesting. And but before that, no, never. I was just out there for fun, playing and with my friends and the guys in the neighborhood. And that's all it was.
And where'd you grow up playing ball?
Well, grew up in New Jersey, in a little town, Bloomfield, New Jersey, just about 45 minutes outside of New York City.
Oh, wow.
Little Italian neighborhood on the south side of town. Had a great group of friends that I grew up with, that we all stuck together and played sports all the time out in the streets and, like I said, in the playgrounds. But Bloomfield, New Jersey was home for sure.
And so you make it down. You're in high school, so pitcher by trade in the major leagues. In high school, were you always a pitcher? Did you play other positions?
Well, I could hit a little bit back then. I could hit I was kind of like the Dave Kingman of Bloomfield High School. Hit some home runs, but not much of an average. But the thing was, they put me at first base one time, and I almost got killed. And they got me off there just to save my life. So eventually they stuck me out in right field when I wasn't pitching. And, I turned a few singles into triples in right field for sure. But basically, I can hit a little bit, but I was there to pitch. That was the main thing.
So, Coach, just to jump in right there about first base. So I had a similar experience when I played high school ball. I played for Bill Permakoff at Bearden.
Yeah.
And he moved me to first base my senior year, and he gave me a book that was about that thick. And he said that's where you need to be on every play. If a runner's on first, second, bunt coverages, cutoffs, and relays. So I think that's pretty interesting. Just expand on that a little bit, from a player perspective and also coaching perspective. That's an incredibly difficult task to learn to play that position.
Well, it is a tough position to play, but in my case, it wasn't about not knowing what to do. It was about just getting killed trying to do it. But no, first base is a very integral part of playing the infield. I mean, when you think about all the places you have to be and holding runners, your cutoff man, all that comes into play, and it is a tough position, and it has to be a lot of talent. You have to have great hands, as a first baseman. You got to have a good arm too, usually, to make those cutoff, those relay throws. But no, for me, it was only a matter of safety and running up a hospital bill at the emergency room.
You talk about that, and I think to the layman fan, and I'm in that category. You look at first base and you're like, oh, just put the big guy there, like just the biggest, longest arm, biggest hands guy. That's who's at first base. Probably not the case. Got to be a smart guy. I know last couple years, Luke Lipsius, he was an aerospace engineering major, was the first baseman for Tennessee. So yeah, got to be a smart kid.
No, being tall helps, no doubt. Sure, there's been a lot. Save a lot of errors for your infielders.
Pitchers love the guys who can stretch the farthest, right?
Well, yeah, that helps. But there's been some really good first basemen that haven't been that tall. Don Mattingly comes to mind, way back with the Yankees. Not a big guy, but Gold Glove first baseman. And like I said, it's all about hands and footwork. A lot of that goes into play at first base.
So Charlie, talk a little bit. So you were in high school, you were pitching, playing some outfield. I guess kind of how did baseball progress to the next level?
Well, through my high school career, we really had some really good teams, some sub-state qualifying teams. Back then too, you're only playing 3 years. We were in junior high in 9th grade, and you had a junior high school team. So you went to high school in 10th grade. I played a little JV baseball for a while, and as a 10th grader, they moved me up to the varsity like the last month of the season, maybe. And then junior and senior year, I was on the varsity club. And we had 2 really good teams at that time, really good state qualifying teams. Wow. But I think at the end of my senior year, I was drafted by the Detroit Tigers. I think it was the 13th round. I had a number of offers to go play college ball. I took one. I took an offer from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, and that was before the draft. And then it was kind of funny that I ended up in the South, because the day of the draft, I get a phone call from the University of Kentucky, offering me a full scholarship to come down there and play baseball. And this is sight unseen. They were just going by the draft.
Oh wow!
And that would have been interesting to come down and go play at Kentucky. If I had known now the South the way I enjoy it down here, that would have been a good spot, to do that. But I did not sign with Detroit. They offered me enough money to go to school back then, but my family, my coach didn't feel it was a good fit. So I went to Rollins College. I left that next year and went to Winter Park, Florida, to go to school. Being a little mama's boy, a little Italian kid out of New Jersey, being away from home for the first time, I was not ready for. I lasted 2 weeks at Rollins. Never went to class. I mean, it's a long story. I can tell you this whole story, I guess, if you want me to.
Hey, we're here. We got the clock on.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. Here's the story. So I go down to Rollins, and I was just dying. I was dying. I mean, first of all, I was on my first plane ride. I get on Eastern Airlines out of Newark, New Jersey to Orlando. And the lady next to me is popping all these pills. She's sweating all over the place. She did not make my first plane ride very easy. I was scared to death. So I get down there, and I didn't leave my dorm room. I didn't do anything. And the coach was upset. Please stay. We want you to stay. I said, no, I'm going home. I called my high school coaches. They told me to stay. Sorry, I had $60 in my pocket. I bought a return trip. I got a return plane fare back to Newark, and I came back home. And Seton Hall had offered me a scholarship during the summer. Mike Shepard, the coach at Seton Hall. So I called him. I said, are you still interested? And he said, yeah, sure. Come on over. So at that time, I guess there wasn't as much red tape as the transfer portal and all
Right.
this stuff. So I just came back home and I went to Seton Hall. And that's where my college career started. But one small story about Rollins, the coach was Boyd Coffey. And Boyd Coffey was a lifer. He had coached in college a lot, then went and coached with professional baseball with the Indians for a while. So now I'm with the Bluefield Orioles years later coaching, and we're playing in Burlington, Virginia, the Cleveland Indians Farm Club, rookie league for Appalachian League team. And I'm at the batting cage over there, and a guy taps me on the shoulder. And I turn around, and he says, how you doing, Charlie? I said, I'm doing good. He said, you don't remember me, do you? He said, and he said, he held out his hand and shake my hand. He said, I'm Boyd Coffey. And I said, oh my. Now I'm 35 years old, and I said, I owe you an apology. I said, I didn't treat you and they had a great team down there. Really had, I think, John Restaino, shortstop for the Twins for a long time, played down there at that time. And I said, I really do owe you an apology because I wish I should have stayed. And that was not fair to you. But he said, oh, no worries. He said, I followed your career all these years. I'm glad that you got a chance. You made it to the big leagues and all this, but I've kept track of you.
Huh.
So I thought that was very nice for him to come up and say that, because I didn't do him doing very well.
So did you tell him or did you just get on the plane and head back? And
No, I told him. He had sent me over to his house for a picnic and all this. And I said, sorry, coach, I can't. I got to go back home. This beautiful place.
right.
On the lake down there, a beautiful baseball stadium. I mean, I had never seen grass like that in my whole life. We played on parking lots and we barely had grass out there at that time. And but this was a perfectly manicured Bermuda, Florida grass. And I just wasn't ready,
Right. So you go to Seton Hall, you get an opportunity there. How long were you there? And I guess, how did you transition there?
Well, yeah, it's another good story. Anyway, I went to Seton Hall as a freshman, ended up being the number one pitcher on the club. I won 8 games as a freshman. I started against Texas. We went to the College World Series. I pitched against Texas in the second game of the series. We got knocked out in 2. But I had a rough outing in the World Series. Gave up a grand slam to Mickey Rickenback in the first inning against Texas, and we ended up getting beat. I pitched like 5 innings, gave up 5 or 6 runs, I think, but we ended up getting beat like 12-2. So from then on, for the next over the summer and into the fall, my nickname was 12-2. Wow. But the next 2 years, next 2 years at Seton Hall, I didn't pitch as much. We had some other guys that he brought in that were pretty good, and they ended up getting drafted and going on to play some minor league baseball. As a senior, I came back, had another big year, won 8 games again. I think I got beat 2-1 in the regional championship that would have sent us to the World Series again. But we went to the World Series my freshman and sophomore year, and then, like I said, the next 2 years we lost in the region championship. And back then it was different. Mm-hmm. You only had to win your northern region. So our main I guess you say our main teams against us were Penn State, Maine, University of Delaware. Those were the top teams in the Northeast. If we got by them, St. John's. If we got by them, you went to the World Series. Now it's not like that. They send you all over. Yeah, but then after my senior, I wasn't as a junior at 21 years old. I wasn't drafted. They told me, you haven't improved. You're not progressing. Well, I said, well, I'm not pitching. That's number one, first of all.
That does change things.
Yeah, and then as a senior, now you're 22, and you're a little older, and they say, well, we still don't see it. We don't see the velocity that we need, that we used to see. It's a little different when you're 18 and you're throwing 85 or whatever I was throwing. Didn't have radar guns back then too much. And if you're still throwing that as a 22-year-old, well then they don't see the potential anymore.
Right.
So I had nothing. I graduated. I had my degree in education, in physical education and driver's ed. I took a teaching job at a small private school at a town a little bit near my hometown. I think I was making $7,500 a year as a PE teacher at this private school. And then a phone call kind of turned things around. I got a phone call from the Toronto Blue Jays. They were looking for a pitcher to fill out a roster on their Rookie League club in Utica, New York, in the Appalachian League, in the New York Penn League. And at that time, they were an expansion team. They were trying to fill out these teams. And a good friend of mine from college, the catcher, Rick Cerrone, was with the Blue Jays at the time. And I think he put a good word in for me to have them take a look and maybe sign me to go fill out this Rookie League club. And so they sent me a plane ticket, no spring training, nothing. I just had to meet the team in Utica in June, short season, summer league type thing. And sent me a plane ticket or a bus ticket. It was a bus ticket, not this time, just a bus ticket for like $95 from Bloomfield to Utica. Well, anyway, I took the $95 and bought 2 snow tires for my car, and I drove up to Utica. But I went up there and had a great year in Rookie League. Now I was 22, I was older for that league, but I won 10 games. And that was the start of my professional career with the Blue Jays in Utica, New York. And in 3.5 years, I was in the big leagues at 26 years old. Yeah.
With the Blue Jays, correct?
No, there's more to that story. I played Rookie League, then I went to the Florida State League, and then I went to Knoxville in the Southern League with the Blue Jays. Knoxville's another story. That's where
KJs.
We were the first Blue Jay AA team there in 1980.
Okay.
I think we lost like 95 games out of 145 or something like that. we had, I think there were, let's see, I know Jesse Barfield was on that team, future all-star, major leaguer with the Blue Jays, myself, and there was, who else? We might have had another player, too, that made it to the big leagues off a team that lost 95 games in AA.
So you're tough. You're really tough.
Yeah, no, there was some talent there, but just it was young. They were just starting, so a lot of the guys were young. But after that season, I think I went 8-6 that year and had a really good year. They invited me to spring training with the big league club the next season, 1981. And I had a shot to win the number 5 starting job in the rotation. And it was my first big league camp with the Blue Jays in Dunedin, Florida. And I pitched okay, but I wasn't as good as I needed to be to earn that 5th starting job. So they sent me back to Syracuse. Well, in the meantime, they said they were going to trade for a 5th starter. Well, the Mets had always liked me. Through the minor leagues, there was a scout, Buddy Kerr, who was a local guy in New Jersey, always wanted to get me to the Mets. And, well, the Mets ended up trading Mark Bombeck to the Blue Jays for me as their number 5 starter. So he went up to New York, he went to Toronto and became their 5th starter. The guy won like 20 games in the minor leagues, I think, the year before.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up going to Tidewater for my first year in AAA with the Mets in 1981. Wow! And that was also the strike year. Joe Torre and Gibson, those guys were down at Tidewater during the year watching us play. and he was the manager at the time, and Gibson was the pitching coach. So at the end of the year, when baseball was back, I got called up to the Mets in 1981, and that was my first appearance in the big leagues in September of 1981.
Oh, wow. Go ahead, Ben. You have a question?
Yeah, Wayne said you were tough. You know, you talked about that salary that you were making. We had a guest on the show a couple weeks back, Tony Iruli. I think he was making similar amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Probably crossed paths with him at some point. You know, traveling up in the Northwest with that mustache and everything. So,
no, Tony's been he's been a good guy to fill in some on our sports page radio show, and he's doing a lot more now since we lost Lonnie Hersburn, and he does a great job on the radio show, and he's had an outstanding coaching career and is still going at it. So Tony's a good guy, good friend, and he's one of those guys that I miss after coming down south to Georgia. Sure.
Yeah, we give Tony a hard time because he used to have a killer mustache, and then in his older years he's gotten rid of it. I'm like, that's a thing that would have kept you young, Tony.
That's the Italian stallion in all of us.
Right. So you get to the Mets, and again, I feel like you that's where you really kind of cut your teeth and got off and rolling pretty well. Played for them, and then a couple years, what was it, 2 or 3 years? Then you went to the Reds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had not even that. I did very well in September, when I got called up, and then following that season, they fired the whole staff up there. They got rid of Torrey and Gibson. Torrey went down to Atlanta after that, and they brought in George Bamberger, the Orioles pitching coach guru, who had Jim Palmer, McNally, Cuellar, Dobson. He was the guy, that had 5 20-game winners on his staff that one year in Baltimore. But George was a great guy, and they brought him in. They brought me down to Instructional League at that year after 81 to work on some things, and George was there at that time. And then I went to spring training in 82 with a chance to earn a spot on the staff, and I pitched very well. And I earned a job right out of spring training. I started off that season in the bullpen, but ended up being moved into the rotation, I think, in May, and got off to a really good start, just like the team did. I think I got off to a 5-2 start, and then the team, and we just started going south pretty quick. We went into Philadelphia for a 5-game series, I believe, after some rainouts early. And I think we got beat all 5 games. And then after that, we just struggled to keep our head above water. I think I ended up 9-9 that year. I led the team in innings pitched, probably close to the top in strikeouts. And I had some good moments that first year. And I was thrilled. Coming into next year, couldn't wait to get back. And then December 12th rolled around of 1982. And that's when Tom Seaver was whining, and I shouldn't say it. He wanted to come back to New York and finish his career. And the Reds ended up they wanted me in Cincinnati, and the only way they'd make the trade was if I was included in the trade. I got calls from Frank Cashin with the Mets GM at the time, from George Bamberger, and then from a couple other people in the Mets office. They didn't want to make the deal, but the owner wanted to make the deal. And so I was sent to Cincinnati along with a couple minor leaguers. One turned out to be a pretty good player and manager, Lloyd McClendon, who's still coaching in the big leagues, I think.
Yep.
But that was the deal that sent me to Cincinnati. Was I happy about it? No, not really. New York was home.
Sure.
That was it. But plus, I had to shave my mustache when I went to Cincinnati. So it got off to, and then I went to spring training with the Reds in 83. And the day before the spring training starts, I tear my knee up working out down in Florida. We lived down in Florida at the time. And so I go to spring training, and the first day I'm in the training room with ice on my knee. And that just things did not go that great in Cincinnati. And I didn't pitch well. I had surgery on my knee that year before I even pitched an inning for him. And it took me a year and a half to heal up. They sent me back down to the minor leagues, I believe, in '84, and then most of '85 I was down there too. But and then in '85 it got to the point. Here's another good story. You want to hear another? Since you want to hear a good Cincinnati story?
Oh yeah.
You know the movie, the one they filmed in Buffalo, The Natural, with Robert Redford. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They filmed that at the old Buffalo Stadium. Okay, I'm sure you guys know that War Memorial Stadium up there. Yeah. So I'm with the Reds, and things are not going very well. I think I'm in AAA with them, and we go into Buffalo, and I give up a home run or something in the second or third inning, and the pitch before, I thought the ball should have been strike three, and I would have been out. So now the manager comes out to take me out of the game, and in the meantime, before he can take me out, I'm arguing with the umpire, and I get thrown out of the game over that pitch. And then the manager comes out. He says, "I'm taking." I said, "Well, you're too late. I've already got kicked out anyway." So then I'm sitting in the dugout, and I won't leave. And the locker room was behind home plate, so I had to leave the dugout, walk behind the plate, and go in this door to leave the field. I said, I'm not leaving. The umpire comes over and said, "You don't leave, I'm going to get the policeman out here." I said, "Well, maybe I better leave then," because I saw the cop walking down the third base line. So I leave, and I walk out. And that was my last appearance for the Reds, because that night I get a phone call from the manager to come to his hotel room. And he said, "I got some news for you." And I thought, first of all, I thought I was just going to get released and sent home. He said, "We've sold you to the Atlanta Braves."
To the Bravos.
To the Braves. And I said, "Well, did you get at least 24 baseballs, or was it less than that?" And so then I went I reported to the Braves. I believe it was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. They were playing the Red Sox farm team. And the weirdest thing was, my knee had been killing me the whole time I was in the Reds organization. And this is true. I put the Braves uniform on for the first time in Pawtucket, and I went out there on that field, and my knee did not hurt anymore. It was everything. It was gone. And all of a sudden, I've spent that half the season in Richmond. All of a sudden, things start coming back. The fastball, the slider, the velocity starts coming back. And I ended up, I got called up to the Braves the following year in '86, and then spent all of '87, '88, and most of '89 with them. So I ended up, getting, it turned out pretty well going over to the Braves and getting away from Cincinnati. But Cincinnati was a great place to play, great fans. We had a nice place to live up there, but it just didn't work out for me as a pitcher with the Reds organization.
So, Ben, the healing power of the Braves, it's a real thing.
That's it. And
we don't have that kind of magic in Baltimore.
They need to get that back. They had a good year last year, so Baltimore's on the way back, I believe.
Now, Charlie, you talked a little bit about your success in high school, throughout the minor leagues, and in your major league career, talking about those wins that you would pile up early in the season. Were you more of a finesse pitcher, or were you a velocity guy? Were you what do you attribute your success to from a pitching perspective?
Well, back then it was a little different. I mean, you had Nolan Ryan, who was, far and above. He might have been 5 to 7 miles an hour above anybody else as far as velocity goes. And the average fastball when I was playing was probably about 87 or 88. Well, now you look at it, if you're not throwing 95, you're not in a starting rotation. You're not. You may get in a bullpen at 90 to 95. And how many guys you see now are throwing below 90? I haven't seen anybody lately. So back then, I would say I was average. I was 87, 88. On a good day, maybe 89, hit 90 once in a while. But I would say I was in that 87, 88. Slider, mostly fastball slider. Later on, I started throwing a little bit more of a curveball at times. And even when Bruce Sutter came over to the Braves, he showed me that split finger fastball. I started throwing that some at the end too. It became very good for me, but mostly fastball slider. And I was a starter, reliever. I think I pitched in close to 200 games in my career. And if I had to do it over again, I probably would have stayed in the bullpen. I think I was more comfortable there. As a starting pitcher, it seemed to kind of get up, that weight, that nervous energy you spend anticipating that start. I seemed to be more comfortable just sitting out in the bullpen, and when the phone rang, didn't have much time to get nervous.
Sure.
Get up and get ready.
Hey, with the new league in Major League Baseball, you don't have any time. You got to run to the mound.
Yeah, there's 20. But see, as a pitcher, you like to work fast. Now, 15 seconds or whatever it is, that's a little. I kind of like the college rule, the 20-second rule, a little bit better. But yes, as a pitcher, you should like to work fast. That's how you're taught. You develop the rhythm a little better, and you seem to be more consistent command-wise. I always like to work fast enough that I made the guy step out of the box. That's how fast you should be working. But now they can't do that. So it's really, you have a lot of power.
Right. So Charlie, you played a lot of your career, most of your career in the National League. So you had some plate appearances. How'd the bat work in the major leagues?
Well, here's another good story. All right. I consider them good stories because
I'm enjoying it.
We're in Chicago. At Wrigley Field, and I started the game against Rick Sutcliffe, and it's a 0-0 game. I think it's about the bottom. I come up for my first at bat, probably was the third inning, I guess, and I'm already hitting the ball pretty good. I think I was hitting like 600. I was like 4. I don't know what 6. I was 4. I think I was 4 for 6 going into the game as a hitter that year. It might have been 87. I think it was 1987. And so we're in Chicago. It's 0-0. No one's given up anything yet. And I've got the video of it too. The skip carriers, they showed the flagpole, and the wind's blowing in Chicago about 18 miles an hour. And I'm facing Sutcliffe, bottom of the third, 2 outs, I guess. Counts 3-2, foul off a couple pitches. Then he throws me an inside fastball. One of my old high school swings kicked in. And I drilled it to the back of the fence, over the wall to the back of the fence of the stadium. A fan tried to catch it. It went off his hands and went into, I think
Wrigleyville?
Well, now it's Wrigleyville, I guess. Yeah, for a home run.
Wow.
So that was my first home run and only home run in the big leagues. But about 3 innings later, I get up again, and this time with first and second. And he throws me another fastball, and I drilled this one, but this was more towards left center. And Gary Matthews, playing left field for the Cubs, caught it right in the ivy, this one. So it could have been a 4-0 game with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs and pitching a shutout. But I pitched very well. I came in, I pitched into the 8th inning. It was 1-0. I was winning with a runner on second base and a guy coming up, a left-hander that I had faced in the minor leagues, got him out all the time, and he took me out of the game. The reliever comes in, first pitch, base hit, tie game. So I got the home run, but I didn't get the win. We ended up winning the game 3-2, I think, in 10 innings. But that would have been nice to have a 1-0 shutout and have the home run to win the game. But
I thought you were going to say when you came up the next time he just walked you, he put you on base.
No, he was scared of me. He was definitely scared of me because the next couple times up, I think I struck out. The third time he threw me nothing but curveballs. But I had him panicking a little bit on that second one too. But that was a fun day. We won the game, which was nice. But that's a memory. When people ask me about what your fondest memory probably in the big leagues, it's probably hitting that home run in Chicago. It really are.
Yeah, and Rick Sutcliffe, Rick Sutcliffe is an Orioles Hall of Famer, and he pitched the first pitch when Camden Yards was introduced.
Okay.
He means a lot to the Orioles organization, but an incredible pitcher, incredibly difficult to get a hit off of him in general.
No. I think I think he was 18-1 that year, whatever it was. They won the Cy Young Award that year with the Cubs. That might have been 84, though.
Wow.
A few years later, he had some. He's tough. Rookie of the year with the Dodgers too. I think when he came up, he was tough. I mean, he had a good breaking ball, good fastball, but just don't throw me down and in.
Right. Hey, so tell me. So obviously the ballparks your home ballparks were the ones we've talked about. What was your favorite ballpark to pitch in or play in general, and which one did you not like playing in?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's the big leagues. They're
all cool.
They're
right?
all great. I mean, I love the mound at Chase Stadium. Had a high mound. It was built for Seaver and Kuzman and Ryan, those guys way back. Go out to Dodger Stadium, the same thing. Great mound. Pitch at Dodger Stadium at night is just unbelievable. I think the places I had more trouble with were more of the places that were more turf at that time, like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, St. Louis.
What about like Montreal?
Montreal wasn't bad. It was indoors, the Dome Stadium. It was weird. I mean, it was a little different place to play up there when we played the Expos, but beautiful city. I mean, the subway, clean subway system right to the ballpark. But it was a little different up there when you would throw over the first base in Montreal way back before they had the video boards. They had like the dot matrix type old stuff. Well, every time he threw the first base, they put this chicken up there, and they start clucking, the whole time. We keep throwing over there all the time just to see how many chickens they'd put up on there. But it was a kind of a weird place. But overall, I mean, the city was just a beautiful place to go and a nice place to visit. But I think my two favorite parks to pitch in, Atlanta, I was very successful. My most successful pitching performances were with the Braves at that time. So I have to say Atlanta was a good park for me to pitch, even though
that was in Fulton, right?
Yeah, it was a launching pad. I mean, it was at that time before Colorado came in, it was the highest elevation above sea level, I believe, at 500 feet, something like that. I may be wrong on that, but close to it. So, I mean, balls did go out of there pretty good. But I would say Fulton County Stadium, Shea Stadium, and Dodger Stadium would be my favorites. Yeah.
All right. So got done playing, and then we talked a little bit about you going into professional coaching, working with the Orioles organization there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was Mr. Mom for a couple of years, taking care of my daughters, Meredith and Angela. My wife took a teaching job in Blount County over at Middle Settlement School. So I was kind of home. I took a little time off, and it was time to find something to do. So I went down to had an interview in Sarasota, Florida with Doug Melvin and the Orioles. And they hired me to be the Appalachian League pitching coach. And there was no spring training. I just showed up in June, just like when I was a player. And we were done in September. And then I ended up, it worked out very well. We won in 7 years. I believe we won 3 league championships, back-to-back, I believe, in 96 and 97. A lot of teams were Minnesota had a really good team in Elizabethton for a long time. They were really good. The Mets were in Kingsport. The Braves were in Danville at that time. Mm-hmm. The Indians were in Burlington. Let's see. There might have been a couple other ones I'm missing, but it was a good league. A lot of talent. And I stayed there for 7 years. And then what changed everything was my girls were getting a little older, not coming up to visit as much during the summer, and the William Blount baseball job opened up. And that was yes. And how about the basketball governors the other night? What a great season they've had, and it was a tough way to end, but they should be very proud of their coach. Wendell's done a great job, and I still follow Governor sports without a doubt.
Oh yeah, I'd say Coach Cup keeps you up to date.
Yes. Yeah, but when the William Blount job opened up, they offered me the baseball job and to teach driver's ed at the high school. So I thought that was a good fit. And that was in my first year there, was the spring of 1999, I guess it was. I helped out. I was assistant coach at that time for half a year with David Simmerly. And then the next year, 2000, I took over and coached there through 2011. And then my youngest, Angela, was playing basketball at Georgia, so I decided that I wanted to follow her a little bit. And I gave up the job and to follow her, but kept teaching until 2017 was my last year.
Coach, you and I have a mutual friend, John Clay Garland. I know he coached with you for a little bit, and he played for you.
Yeah.
And
Coach Garland, probably, no doubt, the best left-handed hitter ever to come through William Blount High School. Maybe the best overall hitter, but there's been a few good right-handers along the way too. But John was also a talent on the mound. He could pitch, played an excellent third base for us, but really came up as a second baseman. We moved him to third when I took over. But and did a great job for me as a coach. And he's got a young boy right now that's going to be a pretty good player from what I hear, and looking forward to seeing him play once in a while. So.
Yeah, so his boy's playing with my son, and he's coaching, and he shared with me, and I think this is something really cool for you to share with listeners. On you had a simple way to teach bunt coverages. You broke down home plate into 3 quadrants. John Clay told me about this. It's kind of it's not a traditional way for bunt coverages, but you would keep and correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd keep that first baseman at home, and then the pitcher would get up to the first baseline. The catcher has in front of the plate, and of course third base has down the line. So just expand on that a little bit, and your thoughts behind that coverage.
Well, a lot of the stuff I did at the high school ranks was I brought with me from Baltimore. I mean, those all the bunt plays, the defensive coverages, the pitchers programs for working out and warming up. We had a book with Baltimore, and I brought that book with me. So all those coverages were right out of the Orioles playbook, is where they came from. And we just tried to make it simple, especially at the high school level. You don't want to make it too complicated. We don't need 14 bunt coverages. One real simple one. Everyone knows where they need to go. And, in high school ball, if you catch and throw the ball correctly, you got a chance of winning.
Yeah. When
you start throwing the ball away, that's when things go south and you end up getting beat. That's what we tried to do. But just to make it simple. But everything was out of the Baltimore playbook for sure.
Yeah, I told Wayne today, what I like about it is that pitcher runs to if a left-handed batter lays down a bunt down that first base line and the pitcher goes running after it, he's going to throw into the runner or maybe throw the ball over the first baseman. So it's simple coverage, and I just thought it was really really great strategy.
The only way you beat it is to bunt it right back at the pitcher. If he leaves too early and goes to the line, that's the only area that's open. If you can get it. How many people are smart enough to do that? Not that. Hitters are not that smart. Pitchers are, but hitters aren't. And catchers. Hitters and catchers are not that smart.
So, Coach, you're credited with expanding and improving the facilities at William Blount, the baseball program, over your time there. The field's named after you. Again, what was, what drove that? And then, again, is that something you're very proud of?
Well, I'm definitely proud of what we help provide the kids with in our community, facility-wise. But it was never just me.
Sure.
If you know anything about high school sports, and I know you all do, especially baseball, the parents have a lot to do with it. If that field should not have my name on it. It really should. It should have a number of parents that put hours in down there, and not just hours, but put their finances behind it. They put their sweat behind it. You're out there in right field with a leaf blower blowing water off the right field where it flooded, or you're putting rebar in the concrete when we built the dugouts, or you're writing a check for the scoreboards, You know, just if I named them all, I know I'd probably miss some of them, but I was fortunate, very fortunate, to have wonderful parents that want to work with me and our coaches and the administration to build something that our kids would be proud of and our community would be proud of. John Davis, as an administrator, was very good to work with. Dr. Pack, at that time was the superintendent of schools, was very much behind us financially. The highway department, if you look at William Blount's field right over there, the batting cage, the fencing that used to be in the outfield and along the sidelines, Bill Dunlap and the highway department put all that up for us at no charge.
Oh, wow.
And I asked, and Bill said, you know something? I asked Bill why he did it. He said, it's not that I don't like you. It's not for you. It's for the kids. And I agreed. And he's absolutely right. You're doing for the kids. We want to provide them a facility that they can be proud of and want to come and play. And Justin Young has kept it up. It's really made some really good improvement to us the last couple of years. New warning track, new fencing in the outfield. It really looks good. I'm very proud of the way how Justin has kept on the tradition of taking care of the field and providing a good place for our kids to play.
Absolutely. I think Blount County in general, they've got just the in-county schools. All 4 fields are very well maintained and very well done.
Oh, I mean, you talk to all the old timers, you think about the fields we played on. My high school field, the infield was all dirt. There was barely a little bit, some grass in the outfield. You know, we didn't. And then at Seton Hall, we had the Fungellini brothers were our groundskeepers up there. And they didn't know what they were doing. The kids now, they're playing, Doyle Holden, at Alcoa. It was, his Dusty and Daniel played for me at William Blount. Doyle was one of the first parents to take over the field. And I mean, we won Field of the Year in 2004 when Doyle and Darryl Claybo and Hubert Garland were involved with it, and just the field spectacular, just spectacular. And I can't imagine these kids; they don't know what they have compared to what we used to play on. But yeah, it's different. But it's nice to have that for them, sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Coach, and when your teaching time came to a close there, and then of course your daughter finished up there in college, began doing a little radio show there, a very popular radio show in our area, the Sports Page. You still do that, but kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was on the Sports Page a few times, when I wasn't really involved in it, when Bob Gilbert and Donnie and Lonnie had it early. But the opportunity came about in 2011. Bob had enough of it and was wanting to give it up. And he asked if myself and Mike Edwards and Donnie Moore would take it over. And we said, yeah, we give it a shot, and I'm like on a 10-year plan. Like every 10 years I have to find something new to do, I guess.
Right.
And so we took that over and we returned the focus. We kept, Coach Trail, Ray Trail was still on, and Lonnie was still there, and Mike, myself, and Donnie made up, and then we added Marcus Fitzsimmons came on early from the Daily Times, and then Troy Provo Heron came on to Troy's ruined the show. If it wasn't for him, it would be we'd be coast to coast by now. But no, they've done a great job. They really done a great job. But we decided to really put the emphasis back on the kids, really make the kids the center of the show. We had 2 or 3 segments every Saturday devoted to the high schools and Maryville College. And we brought the show, I thought we really made it something the community is proud of also. The kids loved to come on. The coaches were great to give their time on a Saturday morning to come out and join us, and they didn't have to do that. And I think a lot of that goes to the relationships that we forged with the coaches and the ADs in our community, that they were happy to come on and promote their kids and their programs. And I think that's been the focus of the show, and that's why it's been good these last 12 years or so, and it continues to go.
Now, it's the longest running sports talk show in Tennessee? Is that correct?
As far as the way it's, as far as we know, yes. They say something else over in Knoxville, but as far as I know, this is the 1978, so 45 years. Every year it's been on. I mean, we shut down a little bit during COVID and all that, but overall, it's been going nonstop every Saturday from 10 to 12.
Over at Blue Tick. But I'll tell you, Ben, I was privileged enough to help one Saturday. I think I did the kick it back to Andy. I got it back to the station there, and
you tried hard to make it work.
Well, I'll be honest. While the show was going on, I mean, with Coach Trail, Coach Puleo, Mike Edwards, Lon Hersbron, rest in peace. Just the stories, man, and the way it's cool because all those guys have their own history. They have their own sports legacy, if you will. But when those high school kids would come on, it's all about that kid and then about lifting them up and telling them how continue to work hard and things will pay off. So it's a treasure just to experience the sports page. But yeah, Coach Puleo definitely in his time with the sports pages has escalated that.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was tough to walk away from and come down here, but just was no way I can still be involved. But I've gone back a few times in football games or visit my mother-in-law who still lives in Knoxville. So I still get a chance to do the show once in a while. It's nice to see everybody, and they're doing great. A little different format. Brian Johnston from Goatees taking over the show and brought some new ideas and new technology to it. So, I think they're doing a great job and they're continuing to promote high school sports and local sports of all kinds. Not just we never did just do football, basketball, and baseball. We did bowling, and they're doing fishing and
the track and field stuff. Yeah,
everything. So that's what I think has made us a little different. We try to incorporate all the athletes, not just the major ones.
Sure. So Coach, I got one more thing for you, and I was going to pop it up while we were talking about your career, but you kind of answered my question in the discussion. So I'm going to pop this image up, and I was going to ask you what these four guys have in common. And then I was going to ask you, did the Reds make you shave your mustache? But you answered yes, they did.
Yeah, no. Well, they gave me the best contract they ever gave a second-year player. So for that, I said, yes, I'll shave my mustache, at that time. But no, I was with the Blue Jays right there. I'm probably 22 years old. And then, pretty young. In the Mets, I'm in the middle, right, probably 26. That's my rookie card, probably. And then the Braves, when I look at that, I say, well, I think that was my best time as a pitcher I was with Atlanta. And I look at Cincinnati, I like the uniform, but I look back and say, I wish things had gone better with the Reds. I do, because it was a good town, and I still got some good friends from those teams on the Reds, and I just wish things had gone a little bit better. But that's a lot of history, a lot of years right there going way back.
I was going to say, I think Smoltzy probably mirrored his mustache after you, Coach.
Well, I'll tell you what, he turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Yeah,
I will say, as a broadcaster, I wish he remembered he played in Atlanta. But anyway,
it's not as easy as you think. You got to be a little bit impartial, but overall, Braves are doing very well. I'm enjoying watching.
Yeah, I like Snicker. I think he's got a good feel for the clubhouse. But Coach, talk about that just the last little bit. I know I've been asking a ton of questions. You've done some SEC baseball. You've actually called a couple of Tennessee's games last year. I remember I kind of messaged you. I said, "Hey, I know this guy." But what do you think about what Coach Vitello's doing in Knoxville and actually the state of SEC baseball right now? Probably the best conference in America.
Well, they lost a tough one last night. Boston College beat them.
Yeah. Base running will beat you.
Yeah, a lot of home runs, and I think what's going on there now is pretty amazing when you think about. Because I've done games going way back, all the way to what was the coach?
You talking about
before Serrano?
Monaco?
No, after him, but before
Todd Raleigh.
Todd Raleigh. I've done games way back to him when there was 15 people in the stands.
Right.
And Dave Serrano was a great guy. Just couldn't get the right product on the field. I thought he would do better, but Vitello has really turned it around. I mean, and he's done it with pitching. Mm-hmm. I mean, he got all that notoriety last year for the kid Joyce throwing 104 miles an hour. His brother pitched a little bit last night. It looks like the same guy out there, like his twin brother. But
he's the water truck. He's not the fireman. He's the water truck.
Yeah. That's it. It's a good way to put it. But no, I think what's going on, it's all recruiting. You know, he's getting, it's pitching. You know, why was Vanderbilt so good for so many years? And because they had the best pitching in the country.
Right.
And I think right now Vitello's got probably the three top arms in the rotation right now. So it's interesting to see if they hit like they did last year. I don't think they will. I don't see the talent through the lineup, but it's early and it's not SEC yet. I think they'll still be very good pitching wise, but I think scoring some runs may be a little bit more difficult this year than it was last year.
So when Moore hit that home run last night, and then Blake got that gift triple on the review with nobody out, and I sat there and I told Wayne this morning, I said, you know, we couldn't score that run, and sometimes that happens. You can't get that run. It just seems like you can't get that run in from third base. And we were going to the top half of the next inning. I'm a superstitious ball player. Curious from your perspective, in that situation, I had this gut feeling. I said, we're probably not going to win this ball game.
Well, you had a couple things there, really. I mean, first, there was some bad base runnings. The guy on third, he needs to be tagging up on the hook to play right off the bat. As soon as the ball's up in the air, he tags. You can go halfway and come back. That fouled him up. And it gets thrown out at the plate. Good throw, good relay. He was dead. And that's my point. I mean, the Burke kid seems like he's going to hit if he keep his mouth shut, and just hit and not talk to pitchers, But he's found. I guess that's just Tennessee. Just wants to be the team that people want to hate. I guess that's their mantra. I guess you want to call it. But like I said, they'll go as far as their pitching takes. They definitely have created an identity for themselves the last few years, good or bad, and they're the team people want to beat right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be interesting once the conference season rolls around this year to see how they do. They had chances to win last night, but I think that's it. The big thing was just the, running the bases correctly, and you may score on that ball.
Well, and I think, it's kind of pinch run. Could you have pinch run right there? Because Burke's probably the biggest kid on the team. So,
well, he did. He did pinch run. That's the problem. He put in a pinch runner. And if you heard Vitello's comment after the game, he said, "We're looking for a guy that can bunt. We're looking for what else was it? He had another guy, something else he was looking for. And the third thing he said, I'm looking for someone who can pinch run." So he wasn't real happy with his pinch runner last night. So that came out after the game.
Back through those years, the Todd Raleigh, the Dave Serrano era, Tennessee baseball was still able to recruit good players. I remember Trey Cabbage, who ended up going to the Minnesota Twins out of Granger County. He was a recruit. He was going to be a signee. Baseball recruiting at the college level, to me, that is you can never be comfortable in that, because if you have a good class, you sign a 5-star, well, then he gets drafted. Well, you've told these other kids you want him, so they go other places. It's like one of those. It's like a house built on stilts. It's a tough game.
No, you got to be a good salesman. There's no doubt. I mean, what about the 11 and a half or 12 scholarships they have to divide up among
right?
How many players? And of course, where's the money going? The money's going to the pitchers. Got to. Yeah. You're going to take care of your pitchers, and then you're expecting Tennessee kids to pay their own way, which they've done for years over there. It's very difficult. And then, like I said, you're fighting the major league draft. You think you got a kid, he's drafted pretty high. The big leagues throw a lot of money at him, and he's going to go. So you've got to be able to get those guys in the middle rounds that you can say, hey, I can turn you into a first-round pick. or a top 5 round pick. Come with us. And I think that's where your focus is usually when you're trying to get these guys that may have big league ability. Sure.
Well, and I told somebody, I said, NIL is definitely changing the landscape of football and basketball, but I feel like the ones that can, I guess, gain the most from NIL, maybe baseball, because like those they were doing the T-shirt deals with all the Beck Gilberts and such last year. I think that's a dynamic that, again, you're not competing with Major League Baseball money, but it is
that's a whole nother story, that NIL stuff, which I don't think is fair. I think all college athletes ought to get the same amount.
Sure, absolutely.
Like California's trying to do something, I think, where every athlete who graduates will get $100,000 or something like that. I just don't see. I mean, you saw what happened in football with Tennessee, where guys are fighting over who's getting what.
Sure.
Why am I not getting it? Why don't you give me something? It's just not fair.
Especially like offensive linemen and such.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if the quarterback's driving a Mercedes, and the offensive line's still riding a bicycle to class.
Sure.
I mean, that's not right. It's not. And the same thing with in baseball. I mean, is your 25th man any worth any less than your number 1 guy?
Sure.
Shouldn't be that way.
Right.
It's just not fair, and it's really, I think it's really, really ruining or hurting college athletics right now, especially for the athletes. But that's another bit. That's a couple shows, more than 5 minutes.
I was going to say, if I could get you and Coach Iruli on the same panel, we could just go as long as y'all can take it.
Oh God. Well,
he's
I don't know
against
if I get
it also.
With Tony's there, I might not get much in to say. He is.
He is but again, one thing you guys have in common, very invested in what you're doing. And right now, Coach, you're enjoying the grandparent life. You're down there in Atlanta with your new grandson, correct?
Yes, I'm here. My daughter Angela and my son-in-law Chaz. Charles Foster Goblish is he's about 18 months old now. And my phone, I got 10% left. I'm okay, I guess. He's about 18 months, and he's a wild man. He's into little cars now. What do you call those little
Matchbox?
Yes, he likes all that, and he's already working on his throwing arm. They live on a golf course down here, so he's got a bucket of golf balls, and he goes out takes every ball and throws it out in the yard. So he's working on his arm. He's a right-hander already, I guess. We're trying to change him, but no. Grandmother is loving being around him too, and that's why we came down here. We decided that it was nice to be around him and share his growing up with him, and we're not alone. It seems like everybody we talk to down here has done the same thing. So it's all about the family and the grandkids. And so far, it's been neat. I'm sure they want us out of the house, no doubt. And we've been here too long. We're supposed to be 3 months, and now we're going on 6. That tells you about the construction industry right now. But we're getting closer. So hopefully everybody will be happy here in about 30 days or so.
Well, Coach, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you just pouring it out for us here for about an hour, talking baseball, talking about just the path that you had through, different cities, different career paths, teaching at William Blount High School, and then ultimately now in a very happy state of retirement. But thanks so much, Coach.
Oh, no problem. Enjoy talking to you guys, and best of luck with this podcast. I like it. Looks a good idea.
Hey, thanks, Coach. And Ben, you got anything for Coach here to finish?
Yeah, Coach, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I really like the part about the ball field. A lot of people may say, well, it's great the ball field was named after me, but you're such a humble guy, giving it back to the community, giving it back to the parents. So I really appreciate you sharing that experience, and great talking with you.
Well, I appreciate that, but that's the truth. I'm not telling you anything different. That's the truth. I was very fortunate to have people like that with me, and they share most of the credit for everything.
Well, Coach, again, I'll let you get back. Again, cell phone power is a big thing, especially in the grandparent life. So until next time, take care. Be safe, and yes, grind on.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See you, Coach.